Hello.
Hello. Hello.
This is Session 0 of Arabellan Black, a homebrew campaign set in the Forgotten Realms. We have 6 players, and we start this campaign as your characters meet for the first time. This prequel session takes place entirely in the theater of your mind. Are you ready? It is September of 1384, year 10 of the Spell Plague. The loss of most forms of magic has brought a new dark age to Faerun. 10 years ago, humanity and their kin imagined that sorcery would bring forth a great period of enlightenment. Those visions have been blackened by the soot of a great industrial revolution. Meanwhile, most states and kingdoms have drawn inward. In the West, the Tetherian royalty has been deposed after a coup by Crown Prince Alamander. Dragonspear Castle in the western heartlands is besieged by demons, and the West has broadly fallen into chaos. In the North, the Lord's Alliance maintains an uneasy peace. Laeral Silverhand and Kelvin Blackstaff provide the shine to the jewel of the North, Waterdeep, the last true bastion of free liberalism and open society in what remains of the world. Far to the east, in the deserts of Thay, Zastam and his shades rule with impunity. The undead rule over the living in a brutal exhibition of the terrors of a lawful, despotic regime. Dark rituals in their temples unlock access to the Shadow Weave, providing a new source of magical power in the realms. But you are not any of those places. You are here, inside the beating red heart of this continent. You are where elves and men first laid claim to these green dales. You are in Cormyr, ancient and storied. 12 years ago, this country was the dream of the spirit of humanity moving forward. There were 12 cities, 26 counties, countless villages, and millions of proud people. Now, there's only one city left that flies the purple dragon banner: Arabel. Arabel is a county within a city, the reduction of a nation to a city-state, the perfect constellation of a healthy populace, natural defenses, and capable leadership, kept the ship of Arabel on course as the Spell Plague devastated the world. 250,000 people, almost all humans, live here and continue to man the walls and sow the fields as their parents have done for thousands of years. Somewhere else, on a plain whose name you do not know, there is a giant chalkboard where the Red Knight waits. You can see through the front of her heavy steel helm, her eyes glowing with manic fervor. You know that your name is on the chalkboard. You know that someone somewhere is keeping score for your little soul and cannot wait to help you leave it behind. You find yourself on the Prime Material Plane in Arabel Cormyr on September 1st, 1384. It's a Tuesday, and Arabel in the fall is beautiful. If you had to travel to be here, you had the benefit of changing leaves, crisp mornings, and sunny afternoons, where if you stay out of the shade, you can pretend that it is still summer. You were summoned here by missive. You were asked to arrive on September 1st in the morning, at daybreak, if possible, by a certain John Smithfield, styling himself as the Praetor of Helm. The earlier the better, he asked. The fate of our plane rests on it. Come as soon as you can. It is thus that we find you at 12:30 p.m., running a bit late, as it were. Roll initiative. Just hit me as soon as you get them.
You got a 14. I got a 6.
Brenner with a 14, Taldred with a 6.
I have a 15.
Nothing gold, 15.
11.
Ada, 11.
I also have an 11.
Can you two roll off?
And I've got a 21.
Gasmir with a 21.
Oh no.
What was the breakdown between who's my 11 plus and 11 minus? Ada and Yoros.
I am minus.
10 plus.
Got it. At the top of the order, Gastmir. You find yourself walking down Crown Street toward the temple. A break in the clouds casts an irregular shadow on the granite flagstones at your feet. A tiny passerine bird lands on a shady elm tree here on the boulevard. You arrive first. There are two guards here, and they both see you approach, seeming to know exactly who you are already. Gastmir, the Eastern Guard, sees you, lowers their visor, and walks away, their purple cloak following them carefully. The Western Guard watches this with a steady gaze. Roll perception.
Ooh. I need to check that quickly. I think it's a -1. Yeah, okay. That's a 13.
A 13 in perception. You study the interaction between these two guards. The Eastern Guard never looks back, and the Western Guard's brow quivers for a moment before they look back at you. You detect a bit of resentment between these two people. This Western Guard approaches you, and you study their face as they study you. This person is wearing full steel plate with an edged weapon of some kind on their right hip. You notice that he has a bit of stubble on his young face, and he looks tired, yet optimistic. He has a bar on his right breastplate with a name, P. Arthurade. He looks at you. Everyone's waiting for you. Go inside.
I'm aware, thank you, says Gastmir and lets her dead gaze pass over this person, glancing after the one that left, and then she enters.
You do so, and arrive in a great hall where you are shepherded to an amphitheater where there's a solemn-looking man who looks like he's prepared to give very bad news. Next on my initiative order, I have nothing gold. Time stops just for you, and you come to realize that it is your turn. Feels a bit abstract, doesn't it? The next few seconds are only yours, even if they appear unremarkable. Nothing gold, some people can get a lot done in a few seconds. What about you? Can you get a lot done in a few seconds?
Yeah, why not? We've got a few flames we can throw up in the air to announce our presence, so... Hello, Arabelle.
Do you do so?
Yes.
Who are you talking to? There is a crowd of people.
Anybody who would listen.
Third in my initiative order, Brenner. You spy something. Nothing Gold, describe the flames that Brenner Oswick would witness if he was walking behind you.
Sparks that shoot up in the air, and for a moment you might think that they're falling stars even, except it's a little odd to see such things at noon.
Brenner, when's the last time you saw somebody cast a spell?
Not long enough.
Not long enough. Does this give you a sense of optimism?
The exact opposite. Brenner's immediately on guard. You apparate in front of him, correct? Is that what I'm getting? She appears in front of me?
You spy her amongst a crowd of people. This is a high traffic boulevard here in a cosmopolitan city. However, you see something fairly strange, out of the ordinary, and as soon as it happens, you see many heads turn. So yes, this person appears to you in the sense that before this moment, they were insignificant. Now, suddenly, you have a sense of significance.
Hand on hilt, we're walking straight towards it.
Nothing Gold. You have a sense you're about to be admonished.
She turns around, sort of her fingers waggling, and you see powder streaked across them. And she says, "Hello." Are you about to introduce me to your sword?
Debating it. Explain yourself.
You never seen or been entertained before?
His hand loosens from the grip of the sword. He stands up, straight. An entertainer, are you then?
Something of the sort, I try to be.
He looks around himself. Nods. Perhaps the city is in need of more entertainment. I feared you were a demon.
Did this mean something to you?
This means something to you.
Ma'am, you're certainly a bit out of place.
Nothing Gold. You know he's not wrong. You do feel like you stick out quite a bit. You have a sense of exigency. As people look at you in the street, you wonder if this is a good place to have this conversation.
Alright, well, I seem to be lost. Are you from around here? Are you traveling?
I'm familiar with this place, yes.
I'm supposed to be somewhere. I don't remember what it's called because I don't know why you name anything in your cities, but I'm looking for John Smithfield. Does that name mean anything to you?
Brenner lets out a very short exhalation. I can lead you there, yes.
Thank you. Then this worked.
Strange comrades in arms, then. Brenner will point you in the direction and lead forward.
It might be worth noting at this point that she's also very short, so he's also helping to like part the crowd around her.
If possible, he would be trying to direct the crowd away from her, yes. Using his bulk to do so. Brenner is a very large man. Somewhere in the realm of 6'3".
You make an odd pair, for sure. And yet, this is a bit of provenance for you, is it not, Nothing Gold?
World does provide when you ask.
I have, with a 11 plus, Euros. You find yourself approaching a great marble temple where you have been summoned. The stairs leading up here are broad, shallow, marble, and there's a guard on either corner. The near guard is an intense young human with short blonde hair. There is a purple dragon insignia with a large number 5 on her right shoulder, and on her left breastplate it reads S. Ruthenberg. She temporarily relinquishes her post to step directly in your way. She looks at you, unblinking, intense. She says 2 words. Cormyr forever. Roll history.
Oh, that's a solid 6 on the books.
You get the impression that she's waiting for you to say something.
I look her up and down.
You do so. Whoever S. Ruthenberg is appears to you as a young human woman with steel plate armor and a helm in the shape of a dragon. She is armed, as are you. Something about this seems rather tense over nothing.
Instead of knowing what she knows to talk about, I will simply just give her a quick salute. How are you, madam? And I will quickly pull out the missive and I will ask her where the gentleman is that I am looking for on the missive. I have been summoned here from lands afar, and unfortunately I do not have time, and I am looking for this individual. Can you help me?
Her eyes narrow. I know who you are. And you can tell that she does. She steps...
Well, that is a pleasure. I unfortunately do not know who you are, but I'm glad somebody knows one another.
You attempt to establish pleasantries. She doesn't look very good at pleasantries, but steps out of your way, gesturing with a single armored arm toward the stairs.
I will look up the stairs, and I'll look back at her, and I will do one more quick salute, and I will thank her, and I will quickly make my way up the stairs.
Somewhat surprising. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just look straight forward, and I don't look at the crowd or anything around me. I simply just walk up the stairs.
You mind your own business, keeping your affairs to yourself as you find an open seat in this amphitheater. Ada Worthware and Taldred Talton. When you're running late, you start to cut corners. Between the two of you, the first person to respond is less late. What is a corner you would cut as you move through the busy streets of the city?
I wouldn't eat this morning.
At Worthware, you arrive moments before Taldred Talton. Your robe catches bits of mud from the streets. Taldred, you see something that looks just a little bit out of the ordinary. Someone in a blue robe, seeming to invite attention, who wants to show that they're a spellcaster these days, moving quickly through the street just in front of you, and you have a funny sense that this person follows the same path you do. Ada, your stomach grumbles.
I'm moving forward. I need to get where I need to be. I don't care who's looking at me. I don't care who's in front of me or behind me. I'm moving forward.
Truly.
If Taldred is in my way, I will elbow past.
If anything, you're in his way. You're in front of him. Taldred, what makes you think you can overtake Ada Worthware, should you choose to?
Why would I want to? And I can already tell. I can see there's there's a person going somewhere with a purpose, and I think we're headed the same way. So I'm just following.
Feel like you have the upper hand?
Oh, I always do.
You do. You arrive This temple is grandiose. You've never seen anything like it. It reminds you a bit of your days living under Tamora's tutelage. You can't imagine someone wasting so much money like this, Taldred. Ada, you have a bit of a hard time getting up these stairs. Must have been built for someone younger.
A hard time getting up the stairs. Are they steep or just my knees are bothering me?
When your knees are bothering you, doesn't everything feel steep?
It does. I'll lean on my staff. I'll plunk it on the stairs as I go up.
It makes a healthy ka-chunk sound as it impacts the marble.
I don't care who hears me or sees me. I'm getting in there.
Roll perception, Ada. So do it twice. Give me disadvantage.
I already got a 1.
Very thorough. You, as you intend, do not have a good grasp on who, if anybody, is watching you. And it is thus that the two of you arrive in a packed amphitheater. Anyone have any special instructions for how they would find their seat? Or do you sit wherever's free?
I'm going to push to the front if I can.
You can. You find yourself amongst a group of people that seems perhaps they could have been your kin in a different life, Ada. They seem older, mostly people wearing glasses. There's a man with a hunchback. There's a woman carrying binders upon binders of something leather-bound. They seem like interesting people, but perhaps not the most dynamic. You get the impression that you're amongst civil servants.
Is there any sort of interesting thing happening in front of us, like on the stage, podium, dais, something of the sort?
You can't imagine much less interesting happening on a dais than an old man collecting his thoughts, and yet there it is. Roll insight.
$14.
You have a funny feeling that this solemn-looking old man probably is John Smithfield.
Have the years been good to him?
They have been cruel to him. His face is pockmarked. You have a funny feeling that he's probably 10 years younger than he appears. Do you know what I mean? He looks around the room and seems to ascertain, with the help of a young prelate, that everybody who should be here is here. People start to settle into their seats. Does anyone have any last-minute objections before this occurs? The old man clears his throat and speaks with a wavering voice. Thank you for coming. There won't be many thank yous in the future, so I wanted to give you this one myself. I'm John Smithfield, and I am the Shield of Helm in Arabel. I will be brief with you. The world that we know is dying. Forgive me for the melodrama, but it is the truth. Mankind is obligated, apparently, to use magic. Without it, we are little more than animals. Perhaps this is because we have come to rely on it, or perhaps the arcane spark is part of what defines the sentient races of the Prime. Either way, it does not matter. Without magic, all civilization on our plane of existence will be lost. Across the amphitheater, there are murmurs of disagreement and concern. Do you offer any thoughts to your immediate neighbors?
Brenner would audibly scoff, but say nothing.
I thought I detected a Taldred nodding his head.
What's that?
Did I detect Taldred nodding his head?
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't talk.
Smithfield continues. We are starting a campaign today, one to end this evil once and for all. We must ask ourselves, what are you willing to do to save the Prime? This rhetorical question lingers in the air. You find yourself with an excellent system of mental organization. Let us visit your quest log together. Throughout the game, you will find that I will be updating a quest log for you. This is another secondary document that will hopefully make it so that you have to take less notes and can follow much more clearly what options are available to you and week to week where the plot is. I will update this for you. No interaction is required on your part. It is merely informative. And I will tend to use the phrase, your quest log has been updated, where appropriate. Any questions about any of that?
Is this going to be like a channel or a link?
It's a link that I just put in the Prime Material channel, and this will be updated as you get more and more quests.
See it, ignore me.
I would never ignore you, Ian. Smithfield continues. Some of you will have administrative or legal duties to us. You have the sense that you may be sitting in the administrative or legal duties section. Some of you will be clerks, and some may be financiers. Some others of you we have instead summoned for a much larger risk, to stop the spy master of the Zent. You have a funny feeling that everybody is looking in your direction. Thank you. Smithfield is helped away by a young prelate, and you are left wondering where to go, as other groups of people seem to automatically coalesce, knowing what to do. Isn't it funny when everything can find its place except for you? There's an immediate bustle of activity. You are sitting in an amphitheater in Arabel Cormier. People are talking around you. John Smithfield is already being herded off, perhaps to his quarters. You're not sure what to do.
Outside of the obvious with the Dryad lady, who else looks out of place?
Let's see. Down in the front, you can see an older woman wearing a blue robe carrying a staff. That seems rather out of place. When you were sitting down, you saw two people who looked perhaps armored or clothed in ways that would suggest that they are not from this area, being Yoros and Gastmir. You also can't help but notice there's a cleric who seems like he has a chip on his shoulder.
You could tell from here.
Any other questions about your surroundings, Brenner?
None at all.
You feel aimless. Never a good feeling. Thankfully, after merely a minute, a man carrying a scroll in each hand seems to be looking for you. Even without knowing, you know that he knows who you are. A feeling that seems to be following you everywhere here. Yes, I'm Walt Forbes. Prater Forbes, let's get you onboarded.
Carry on with your duties, then. I'll hold a hand out as if to expect one of the scrolls.
He takes 2 scrolls in his left hand, then shakes your hand with his right hand. Not what you expected.
He'll shake it firmly.
You do so, and he tries to suggest urgency by pulling you along. Do you follow?
Begrudgingly, yes.
You begrudge the path in front of your feet. He leads you to a room where a number of crates have been stacked to form a workbench and battle map. There is a golden 7-foot diameter ring sitting ominously on the ground in the back corner of the room. There are 2 people here, and again, you can tell that they know who you are and they seem to be here waiting for you. Praetor Forbes gestures toward them as if to implicitly introduce them. These are Doctors Clancy and Toughfoot. When he says Clancy, he gestures toward a woman with graying blonde hair in a blue robe, who looks at the two of you in front with a sad smile. When he says Toughfoot, he gestures toward a halfling man in a fine green vest with little square glasses. Forbes continues. They are a medical doctor and a psychiatrist, respectively. Normally, we have a more drawn-out procedure here, but a policy is a policy. In whatever order you'd like, you have to convince them that we can have a clear conscience having you serve in combat. Having introduced himself to you with a handshake, you notice that Forbes is staring you down, Brenner, seeming to hope that your immediate kinship means that you will be the first one he can check off of his scroll.
He'll shrug and step forward.
You do so. You are immediately surrounded by a halfling and a doctor.
Oswick. My name.
All 3 nod appreciatively. The doctor looks at you and pokes the outside of your armor. Brenner Oswick, for the benefit of the group, please describe your physical countenance.
Brenner Oswick stands at about 6'3". He is an aged man, if you can see under the visor he has currently lifted up. Somewhere in the realm of 45-ish. Tufts of gray hair will spit out of the top of the helmet. He has a full beard. Very stocky man at that. He's clad in full plate armor that seems like it's worn from time, as if bits have been replaced, almost a la the ship of Theseus. He has a sword to his side, standard, nothing fancy, and a shield with enough damage to it that you can barely make out the outlines of what used to be a crest. Over his back, he has a blue half cape and a iron ring with a star on it.
Tell me about the crest in that shield. It's very worn down, but could any bystander here with you detect anything about it?
It is of once a religious icon, yes.
The little halfling looks up at you through the eyes of his glasses. Have you made peace with your god, Oswick?
Not yet.
For the benefit of the group, describe your affect and how you come off. What's your expression right now?
To that specific question, very aggravated. Outside of that, typically stoic. A bit more of a commanding voice than my tiny frame can conjure to this man.
As you allow yourself to be inspected, you have a sense that you have been checked off the form as Forbes looks at you and nods his head approvingly.
Brett will take a step to the side, if ushered in a way.
Let's keep moving. Let's keep getting people through here. I have a lot to tell you about today, so let's keep this moving.
Surely. Any of you?
I'll walk up to the front.
You do so, Ada.
I will quickly get up and also walk to the front.
Ada, you are taken upon by a doctor and a psychiatrist who look you up and down. Describe your physical form.
An aged half-elven woman, her defiant chin as high as her energy. Ada proudly wears the garb of a mystical scholar, grasping a classical quarterstaff and walking amongst people without a care as to what her appearance might attract. At her hip is an obvious spellbook, her robe dappled with small pouches of sorts, and a haversack at her back. She's got dark features, a weathered brow, aged lines across her aged face, and bears into the sky slightly over 5 feet.
The little psychiatrist looks up at you and asks, seeming to sense something about you, would an illusion spell that lets you cry at your own funeral give you any peace?
My funeral itself would be a piece of sorts. I guess I'd want to see who's there.
Describe your affect, how you appear. Not physical appearance. You know what I mean. Go ahead, please.
I would say Ada has a piercing gaze, her eyes dart around, her small hands grasp her staff tightly, and she is quick to have the first and last comment in the conversation.
And for my references, Ada, not Ada. Is that correct? Ada. Got
That's
it.
correct.
Thank you. I believe as Walt Forbes checks you off of his list, just behind you is Euros. Euros, this woman in her blue robe, places her hand on your shoulder. Anything going on under this armor that we should know about?
No, madam, just standard issued armor.
Describe your physical form.
Sure. So yours is a tall 6'1" half-elf with short, unkempt charcoal hair with dark green eyes. He has a very straight posture. Looks like he's always waiting to do something. Can't stand still in one place for very long. His foot is constantly tapping like he just wants to get going. Currently, he has armor on of a light gray and black hue, with it looking a little heavier on the left side than the right side. He appears unarmed, and over top the armor he has a gray tabard that appears to have an emblem of a fist on it.
This tabard, it's a tabard of the Flaming Fists, right? Something that people would immediately be able to recognize.
Correct. It is one of the remaining bits of his uniform from when he served.
And I think any additional comments on your affect or personality appearance?
None to speak of.
You watch as Walt Forbes checks you off of his list. Okay, that's half of you.
Let's look at him and anything else.
You have a sense. Walt Forbes does not respond to you, and you have a sense about something here. You feel like you just gained an insight. Once he checked you off his list, he doesn't seem to care about you much anymore. You think you can judge something of the whole of this man based on this small interaction.
I will snap my fingers at him, see if I can get any sense of attention from him.
He looks over at you. He smiles. Euros?
Yes, did you not hear me? I was asking if there's anything else.
No, there's nothing else at all.
So there are people like moving about this space, looking busy and whatnot.
Not so much in this space. You are now in a separate alcove where there is those crates, there is some golden circle in the corner. You're in a separate room that adjoins that main amphitheater. However, you can hear out in the hallway a steady drumbeat of footsteps, suggesting to you the whatever normal business of this temple would be. It's still happening.
So we get pulled aside into a room with two other people. Can people out in the hallway hear what is going on inside?
That's exactly right. There's no door closed. Yes, you have a sense that patient privacy is lacking here.
Taldred's up next. He walks up and he's like, "So is this thing catered or?"
Walt Forbes makes eye contact with you and grins. Actually, yes, we will get to lodging and other arrangements after we get everybody onboarded.
Oh, it's one of these deals, huh? Okay.
The doctor sizes you up and pokes you in the stomach of your armor. Bit soft around the middle under here, aren't you?
I beg your pardon.
She smiles. You think she must be kidding. Describe your physical form.
So, Taldred clocks in at 5'9". He's got perfect blonde hair, even at 37, which he currently is. Although he would probably argue he's younger, but I'm not going to get into that. Let's see. He is currently clad completely in armor that I would describe as menacing, I guess. If he's still wearing the armor from the previous campaign, yes, that would be pretty menacing looking black full plate, which has seen, well, a lot of use, but it's kept incredibly clean. He also has a large shield with him that is incredibly unwieldy, that he carries sometimes with two hands. I believe I covered everything.
What about your affect and how your personality presents?
Right now, Taldred seems amused.
You have a look of bemusement on your face in the face of bureaucracy and policies and procedures.
Yeah.
Walt Forbes checks you off his list.
Just like that.
Just like that. You have a sense. How interesting that you should note that, Taldred. Were you expecting more, less, nothing, something?
More? It seems like other people got more. But, I mean, people can tell. They look at Taldred, they know he's the whole package. So, makes sense, I guess.
Do you think you're a known quantity?
How could he not be?
You carry that sense as you complete this process. Walt Forbes can't wait to get more people through. He is checking things off of his scroll, and he seems to be extremely happy about it. Here is a man who revels in checking things off of a list.
I think Nothing Gold will tilt her head towards Gosman and say, "Well, beauty before age."
I don't think any of this is entirely necessary, says Gosmer.
Just go along with it. Distract him.
She lifts an eyebrow slowly. It's a very icy looking eyebrow. Distract from what?
It's easier for you if you don't know. Just
You may take me off your list, says Gasmere and turns to the person. And if anyone touches me, I shall break their finger.
Perhaps somewhat unexpectedly, Walt Forbes nods. He doesn't seem to mind a cursory, even entirely perfunctory checkmark off of his list. Is it Gasmere or Gasmere? Have I been saying? Is the T silent?
Gastmere.
Gastmere. Describe your physical form.
This is a woman completely lacking in any kind of softness. She's all lines and angles and broad shoulders and a very dead stare with these pale eyes that you might expect on somebody who has died a decade ago, perhaps. And she has grey, dark hair. A bit difficult to tell her age, but you think she might be in her 30s, perhaps. And she rests a hand on the hilt of a rapier. But she isn't wearing armour, nor does she carry a shield. But she's wearing the sorts of clothing that you might, if you're not familiar with people who are rich, you might dismiss them at a glance. But if you are aware, you notice that it's quite expensive fabric and there's a little bit of like silver filigree at the throats. And she certainly behaves in a manner that suggests that she may come from wealth.
Do you have any qualms about appearing wealthy in a city that is mostly composed of the poor?
She presents herself the way she is. She doesn't flaunt it, but she doesn't care to hide it either. But she doesn't go around like throwing money everywhere, obviously.
Nothing gold. You have a sense of finality.
So while Gostmere was being looked over, could she have circled around a little bit just to look at this list that Praetor Forbes is so enthusiastic about?
Absolutely. Why don't you, let's see, how would you approach this? You slink around the perimeter of the room, attempting to seek a glance at what's on the paper. Are you trying to? Good.
I think she's trying to make it look rather natural, so she makes eye contact with Brenner, and it's sort of like, oh, I left something if you're over there. Stay there, I'm gonna come get like, and then that explains why she's crossing the room, and as she passes by the praetor, she'll like just take a quick look while he's talking, of course, to Gastmere.
Roll deception.
A 12.
You can steal a glance. Here's what you can see. This paper is graph paper. It reminds you of something that an engineer would have on their desk, like drafting paper. It is a list with 6 names on it, and there are 2 checkboxes to the right of those names. You see intermittent checkboxes. No one's name has 2 checks. No one's name has 0 checks. That's all you're able to discern. Walt Forbes notices you looking and misinterprets this as eagerness to proceed. You feel yourself surrounded by people you've never met before. There's a doctor looking at you with great interest. You wonder if she's ever seen a dryad up close before. The halfling takes off his glasses.
Yes. So I believe I'm supposed to ask you about your accreditation. I was told not to give out too much information to strangers.
Everybody looks taken aback by this request, as if their authority has never been questioned. You, Nothing Gold, have a funny sense that you are operating on a different, parallel track to whatever these people are operating on. They look at you, bewildered. The doctor offers up a meandering explanation of her credentials. She's from the South, Lorene, and trained as a field medic for 8 years, and then an internist, a medical doctor, for the past 4. The psychiatrist asks you, looking up at you, have you ever been seriously injured before?
Well, not in a way that didn't grow back.
The doctor takes great interest as you say this. There are pieces of you that have grown back. Do you stop her when she touches your wrist?
No. And the texture, I think, at her wrist will be very rough, like bark.
Describe your physical form.
So she is obviously humanoid. When she was walking over, there were sort of these hollow clicks that echoed after each footfall that suggested she might be wearing heels. But despite her best efforts, she is still just, a little bit taller than the halfling. She sort of, as they're reaching towards to touch her, and to like get a better understanding of her body, she sort of engages in this dance where like she's leaving some distance, like they're connected, but she has a bit of this unrooted sense to her where she's very much perpetually in motion. She had this tiny pack that's absolutely stuffed, draped across her shoulders, and there's a roll of canvas that's poking out of one of them. As I said, her skin tone is fairly uneven. It's strangely rough and unfinished in places, but polished to a high sheen in others. Her hair consists of these thick cable-like twists that are pinned out of the way by leafy strands. She has interesting features, the sort that invite people to stare at her, and definitely invites the scrutiny that comes with trying to figure out if something is just merely trying to look human. Her eyes might be too wide apart. Maybe one of her legs looks longer than the other. And at the very end, one might begrudgingly conclude that she is unfortunately very beautiful.
Begrudgingly is an interesting term. Also, canvas sticking out of your pack. Does that catch anyone's eye? No? Nothing gold. Walt Forbes nods happily and checks you off of his little list, or so you can assume.
Only once.
Great. Only once. Great. You're all now officially Paladins of the Radiant Heart.
That's all it took?
That's all it took. During times like this, that's all it took. Now, please, go ahead, Mr. Oswick.
Brenner stamps his foot at the notion of this. Excuse me.
You're excused.
Explain yourself.
Sure.
I swore no oath to your god.
Simple enough. I would not expect you to swear any oath to helm, knowing you. However, I think you'll find that the benefits of briefly working for us, even if it's only a brief time together, massively outweigh any type of realistic concerns you may have about swearing an oath to an organization that you don't necessarily agree with.
I renounce this title, but can agree. He lets out a heavy sigh. I can agree to cooperation.
Title renounced, cooperation agreed. He seems to mentally file this away. What I can guarantee you is lodging and safety as long as you're here. As long as you work for us, we can offer you a safe house here in Arabel inside the temple, and your meals will all be well taken care of. You will find a fully equipped galley here should you choose to cook for yourself. However, we will provide you meals, lodging, and safety. In exchange, you have to help us save the plane. Does that satisfy your needs, Mr. Oswick?
Fair deal.
You're
Oh, I'm sorry, I have a few questions.
Ada, Walt Forbes, with his smile that you're already learning to hate, pivots to look directly at you. Yes.
I've had titles in the past.
Miss Worthware, yes.
Yes, I've had titles in the past, but they usually come with some sort of responsibility. Now, do you expect us to go out and suicide because you gave us a few biscuits? Or should we hide like the Order of the Radiant Heart was when Sembia descended upon Cormyr?
Yes and no, respectively. I do expect you to go on a suicide mission because that's the only way we can save the plane. On the other hand, no, you will not be expected to hide away in a safe temple somewhere as we have. However, I think you will find that without our infrastructure, you will have a hard time doing the first option.
I'm sorry, you're making it sound like you're doing us a favor when I think the situation is the other way around. We talk about payment, recompense, aid.
I would
I
love
don't care about what sandwiches I'm going to eat.
We'll see if you still feel the same way at dinner time, Miss Worthware. I would love to talk to you about all of the above things. You would like recompense? What about everybody you know continues to live? What about you wake up and your eyes are able to open because your plane still exists? What about everybody you've ever met is still alive? Are these good rewards?
So I assume you're coming with us on this quest then?
Actually, yes, I will be, in more ways than one.
What about the actual present way?
The actual present way, well, you may find that in some ways I will help you a bit more subtly. He does a mock flex, and you get the impression that he's trying to suggest that his combat potential is limited. However, what I lack in magical prowess, like you, Miss Worthware, or physical prowess, like... He pauses and attempts to select briefly who he would say in this group has physical prowess, decides he's picking from too many people in an array, and stops. What I can do is help you plan. You've never met someone like me?
I've met too many people like you.
I heard you were into politics. How interesting.
Ada will give a huff.
You do so. Forbes looks like he can't wait to get started. Are you ready to hear what I need you to do? There's multiple layers, and there will be many times throughout that you can stop and ask questions.
Get on with it.
Yes, please proceed.
He looks completely unfettered by your reasonable requests to please just get this shit out of your mouth. He sizes all of you up and continues. What you heard in the other room from the old man is true. The short version is this: our plane will fall. We don't know why, we don't know how, but we know that if we don't reconnect the weave to the prime material plane, it's all over. What we need you to do is no small task. You have to assassinate the spy master of the Zentarum. Now, I have many resources to help you defeat him. Perhaps you'd like to know that we've already sent several expeditions to kill him. None have come back.
How encouraging.
Perhaps you would like to know that we only have 1 month to execute on this mission. Your time is very limited.
Why only 1 month?
We are not sure. What an excellent question, Mr. Talton. We don't know either. A premonition, a prophecy, just something that the old man keeps insisting on. If November comes, it won't bode well for us. Get it done in September. In September, Mr. Talton.
What does assassinating the spy master of the Zentarum have to do with reconnecting the weave?
Excellent question. Miss Gold? Mrs. Gold? Mrs. Nothing? He shakes his head. It's all rather simple. Here's what we know. We know that the spy master, Mr. Tierney Fang, is attempting to build something parallel to the Weave. We don't know exactly what he's doing, but we have a funny feeling that all of this started with him. His actions precipitated everything that we're experiencing right now.
And then, did you ever figure out what severed the weave?
We think it was the actions of Mr. Fang himself. We have a feeling that you may be able to discover more as you research Mr. Fang.
So is
I'm
this
sorry.
all just feelings and no evidence?
That's correct. All feelings, no evidence. All magic, no concrete evidence. There is nothing connecting any of this other than some feelings, some money we pulled together to try to make it happen, and hopefully your ability to get things done.
You're expecting us to believe that a mere mortal is going to recreate a weave overseen by Ao the High Father and tended by Mistra.
It's funny you should mention Mistra. We think... He pauses and waits as he prepares to say something that would go against the orthodoxy of this time. We think that Mistra's still alive.
Mistra was dead?
Walt Forbes looks at you, Nothing Gold, with a sense of pity, perhaps. If I may, let me tell you the tools that I can offer you. He gestures toward the back of the room. We have a unique opportunity. We have 2 portal keys. What these do is they will get you inside Zentarum Keep. You could go right
Fast.
within a matter of minutes.
You sure about that?
You get the impression that he's not sure what you're referring to. They're cargo keys. They typically arrive... Go ahead.
Sometimes they can take longer, considerably longer.
I've never heard that before, Mr. Talton.
I've lived it.
He sizes you up and down. You're not sure if he believes you.
I did. 2 years. I went through a portal. Came out 2 years later.
How
You said we've only got a month.
This may be a risk that you simply have to run, Mr. Talton. He shows you around his neck. He has 2 keys.
Had they been tested?
Yes, by previous infiltration groups that all failed.
So how'd you get the keys back?
We didn't. These are not the same physical keys. Most portal keys are a one-time use. Not always.
That's questionable.
I'm glad that you have questions.
But you have sent multiple groups through, and you know they made it to the other side.
That's exactly right. They may have been defeated once they got there, but this is a concern that I have less with you. Previously, I will tell you, we have mostly sent not our finest people.
I find that hard to believe. Why would you? Taldred looks around. He's like, you waited for a month to send the best? This isn't some desperate last shot. Really?
Taldred, roll insight.
Okay, me. $18.
It's a desperate last shot.
I love it.
And is it this vague prophecy of yours that deems that the only way out of the situation is to murder this Mr. Fang?
That's exactly right. We have a vague prophecy. What else do you have? What other options do you see? Did you know that the human populace of this plane halves roughly every 2 years? Something has to give.
How do you know Mr. Fang isn't in the process of fixing it, and if we go in there, something goes sideways?
Roll insight.
Ooh, that's gonna suck. Hang on. Oh. 17.
You deduce something fairly easily. You understand that if the premise is that the Zentarim, or Tyranny Fang specifically, are building their own weave in parallel or something like that, perhaps you are correct. They are trying to reverse something as well. You have a feeling that you're onto something. Walt Forbes, on the other hand, seeks to dismiss your concerns. I wouldn't side with the Zentarim if I were you. I can't imagine that what they're doing is anything worth pursuing.
That's the first thing you've said that makes any goddamn sense.
Everyone makes sense once in a while, I'd like to think. But we have one last opportunity to make one good try for this. Whenever you're ready, you can tell me whenever your team feels like you are able to go through this portal and deal with what's on the other side. You can simply tell me, and I will grant you access.
We would obviously need as much aid as you have.
And
Information that's reliable. I'd like to inspect these portals. Perhaps some weaponry.
Taldred interjects. I would also like some reliable information. He casts Zone of Truth.
you do so. It is readily apparent to everyone in the room that you are inside of a zone of truth. A zone of truth is not subtle. You are able to discern immediately that you are inside of a zone of truth, and you cannot tell lies unless it is obvious to everyone around you.
Hi there. Taldred Talton. I've been fighting the Zentarim for the better part of a decade. And I can tell you that this, their idea, gather all their enemies at one place and keep an eye on them. It's the exact kind of ploy they would do. He looks around the room at everybody. I want everyone to go around. In the zone, where there's only truth. State very explicitly that you're not a Zentarim agent, nor have you ever been one. He points to Ada, you first lady.
First of all, my name's Ada. Second of all, I would never work for the Zentarim, neither have I.
He moves to Brenner.
Oswick, he takes a step within the circle. I've sworn an oath under these. He'll gesture around the circle. Conditions before. Never to the Zent.
He turns to Nothing Gold.
Well, you can call me Nothing Gold. I can promise that I've never worked for the Zentarum, and I'm simply here to kill Tyranny Fang.
He turns to Ian. I don't know. I can't remember your character's name.
It's yours.
Yoros, that's it.
I step forward into the circle. I don't even quite know what a Zentarum is, but I'm here.
Bit too vague.
Sorry. I would just give you a deep bow. I assure you, I am here to do what is right and what is good. Unfortunately, I don't quite know what a Zentarum is, so to speak. But I was told the right thing needs to be done.
Boy, what rock were you living under?
Even I know what a Zentarum is.
I don't get out much.
Gastmere.
I'll be honest with you, it took me the longest time to even learn how to read.
Mind you insolent, but if this is what it takes... No, I do not work for the Centaurium. Never have. Never will.
And I am Taldra Talton. I do not work for the Zentarum. And I... Taldra, thanks for a moment. And I once worked for the Zentarum. You might have some questions about that.
Very interesting.
Is this a
Go ahead.
confession of some kind? Do you feel guilty?
About a lot of things.
Well, it's a safe space here. You have your zone of truth cast on by whatever source you're pulling from. Just let it go.
I was a courier for 2 weeks for the Zentarum.
Knowingly?
Yes.
Is there any pertinent information about them that you'd like to tell the rest of us?
There's lots of things I know about them. I know how they work. I know what their weaknesses are in some regards. I know when to fight them and when not to fight them. But as for their current ongoing schemes, no.
Praetor Walt Forbes,
Praetor Walt Forbes, he grins.
please say something with substance about the Zentarum and your affiliation.
My affiliation lies very far from the Zentarum. I have been a member of the Temple of Helm for my entire life, as my parents were. He is standing in the middle of the Zone of Truth as he says this. He looks rather proud. I have never been affiliated with the Zentarum, and I have fought against them for these past 10 years.
Taldred, who granted you that boon?
What? This?
Oh, this.
Yes, your power. Where does it come from?
Comes from a goddess.
How
One.
delightfully vague.
Yes,
It
please do
comes
please.
from the goddess
Which one?
Saloon.
Salute.
That's right.
Okay, I don't know that name either.
Major goddess of the moon. The antipode to Shar, who's the night goddess.
Now, I know this, but yours doesn't.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I figured that was in character. He's just like, I'm learning things.
I'm familiar.
Eurus, you are learning things. When he says Shar, something sends a symbol, or sends a signal through your nervous system. You wonder about some of this. Walter Forbes, on the other hand, looks eager to proceed. What other questions do you have? We can do this entire presentation inside the Zone of Truth, should you see fit.
Taldred, are you going to betray us on this trip?
Absolutely not.
Are you certain of that?
As certain as one can be of the future.
What would it take for you to betray us? What's your cost?
Wow, that's...
You would have to jeopardize this mission to stop the Zentarum. If you aided them in any way. But
Well,
why would you do that?
we're still in the zone of truth, right? So, if you're gonna betray us, do you care more about a payment or people?
You're asking if I'm worried about... You're asking if I would take a bribe from the
Yeah.
Zentarum?
Yeah.
No. I only care about seeing that organization dismantled. Full stop.
Alright, good enough for me. Well, I mean, we're in his circle, right?
Mhm.
Can't lie.
It's easy to make promises about the future.
Yeah, but sounded sincere. And we're in his circle.
Hate is an easy currency.
What do you hate?
What do I hate? Well, certainly I don't hate the Zentarum as much as you. What I hate is this demagicified world.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Now, I guess we let the bureaucratize, or whatever they do. Waste taxpayer funds.
Walt Forbes looks eager to waste taxpayer funds. What you'll need to do is go to Zental Keep via this portal. Feel free to inspect it as much as you'd like before. I think you will find that we've done all of our due diligence to give you the highest chances of success.
Is this a one-way portal?
It is a one-way portal. When you earlier used the phrase suicide mission, you were not wrong, Taldred.
I don't think yeah, whatever.
So in terms, say we do kill Tierney Fang, this mission is a success.
That's exactly right. However, I doubt you'll be able to just kill him. We think that he's made multiple deals with liches. We suspect that he may have a phylactery. And that is exactly why, when you go to Zental Keep, you're not going to Tierney's office first. In fact, let me tell you a little bit. Walt Forbes continues walking amongst the zone of truth, as if to suggest that he wants you to know that this information is correct to the best of his knowledge. You don't want to go to the 6th floor of Zental Keep, where Tierney's office is. You want to go to the 8th floor. Now, Zental Keep is built into the ground. Each of these floors goes farther deeper and deeper into the earth. Down on the 8th floor is where the Zentarum are keeping a number of magical artifacts. Now, one of these artifacts is something that we don't think Tierney knows the true value of. We, as Helmites, do. It's the censer of Helm. And we think that it is a super weapon that could potentially be used to kill Tierney somehow. We suspect that the best weapon to end his life is stored in close proximity to himself, in his own keep.
How do you know where his office is when you just said that nobody came back after sending them through the portal?
We have a number of spies inside Zental Keep. Something else I'd like you to do before Walt looks back at his scroll. One of the things I'll need you to do before you leave is speak to the person in the city. You sense that he's picking his words very carefully. The person in the city that has espionage agents inside of the keep. They will probably be able to tell you far more than even I can.
But you've told us so much already.
And I'm happy to tell you more. What else would you like to know? This is a rather difficult mission that I'm asking you to embark on. And yet, it's what we need. It's what the Prime Material Plane needs.
Have other parties been sent directly into Zental Keep in this fashion?
Not directly in this fashion. We have used portals. We have used other tactics as well. We've sent people in disguised as scullers. We sent in a conventional attack, if you will, using 80 trained knights. These have been repelled. Zental Keep grows in power. They are the regional power now. Not us, not any of the nations of man.
Are you confident that teleportation magics will work when directed inside of Zental Keep? They don't have some sort of disruption field. They're not prepared for something this rudimentary.
Our feeling is that these portal keys go to the loading dock of Zental Keep, and it is such we hope that your arrival will simply be interpreted as freight. You likely won't be able to stay undercover for long, so you'll have to act quickly once you get there.
Your previous groups went through the same portal?
Not the same. We've used a variety of tactics. Not this exact portal with these exact keys. But we have been trying to undermine the Zent. He stamps his foot into the zone of truth as if to underline the point.
Gotcha.
We have been fighting them however we can for a decade. And now, we're running out of time. Taldred, you see something. And you fucking hate what you see. Roll history.
$18.
You see someone skulking about, watching from the hallway, listening in on your little session here inside the zone of truth. And for better or for worse, you recognize this guy.
I do?
You do. It's a famous safecracker, Roger Dale. Kind of a shithead by your estimation. You've always hated this guy. He creeps around the same types of circles that you do, always hoping to pull people in for an easy score. You wonder what he's doing here, but as you play with that thought in your mind, he walks down the hall, catching your eye. You wonder if he knows who you are, too.
Talter doesn't think too much of it.
You don't. Walt Forbes, on the other hand, is drumming on the table with his fingers, waiting for more questions, more inquiries. And you get the impression he's waiting to say something else once you've concluded this point.
Where are we to find this liaison?
He looks down and chuckles a little bit. He hesitates for a while. In the Temple of Sirik, in Little Avernus, 2 blocks south of here. If you talk to the head priestess of that temple, she's our contact for espionage inside of the keep.
How do you know these agents aren't already compromised?
They may be. On this short of a timeline, Yoros, we take what we can get. If you choose not to trust the Sirikites, I can't blame you. But you may find them to be a useful tool, if nothing else.
Will they aid us in fighting? Or are they simply just going to be there to peddle words?
I suspect they're more of the word peddling type. If it makes you feel any better, though, I don't think they'd be able to fight you.
That's not my concern.
Now, I must confess that we have more exigent concerns that I'll need you for. But before we move on to some of the immediate needs of the temple, do any of you have any more questions about the hapless suicide mission that we need to send you on?
Could you tell us more about Mistra still being alive?
I would love to. We have it on good authority, and unfortunately that's all I can say. Again, you can tell he's standing inside of this zone of truth. This is all that I know. We have it on good authority that Mistra may still be alive, and this may be somehow connected to what Tierney is doing in the bowels of Zental Keep. One of the things that I expect you to do over the next month is research some of these things so that you are best equipped when you arrive.
Why are you so confident about the timeline?
I'm not. Smithfield is. He gestures back toward the main hall where you heard the old man speak.
What gives you faith in him?
This is where the vague prophecies come in, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yes, this is where vague prophecies come in. Unfortunately, vague prophecies are all that stands between us and whatever happens outside of this plane. Can you open your eyes in space? I'm not sure. I'd rather not find out.
Bless you.
Walter Forbes seizes the initiative. Now, we, just like you, are going to be building our strength as we get closer to the end of the month. It is such that occasionally I will give you tasks and communications that are relevant to the Paladins. And I have one for you today. There are 2 things that we will need you to do. If you're thinking that, and you have the impression that he's talking directly to you, Taldred. If you're thinking, what's in it for me to do little tasks for you? I find that we will only be stronger if we treat ourselves as allies. As you grow in strength, so will we. You asked for recompense, magical items, payment of some kind. Currently, we have little to no resources. However, with your help, we may be able to opportunistically turn what little we have into what you will need to defeat tyranny. I'm going to update your quest log while you consider this.
Assume that these prophecies that are being seen are already saying that we do not succeed. Could you let us know if and when that changes?
It's funny that you should ask that, Nothing Gold. Because Smithfield alleges that you will succeed. I'm not sure what gives him that impression, but if you believe in a little prophecy, he's optimistic about this.
What about the other groups? They had no prophecies?
The other people that have been involved in this over this decade, Taldred, I would ask that you not impugn their name by acting as if their failures made them lesser.
How dare you? You're the one who sent them to their deaths.
Not with any great glee, I assure you. You know,
Just negligence. Okay.
This doesn't progress our goals.
say that again, Gastmere.
It's fighting. Gains us nothing.
That's exactly right. And once again, you notice something. Walt Forbes is smiling. It had been a couple minutes.
Castamere is not smiling. I'm having a hard time actually keeping a straight face, but my character's not smiling.
Noted. You do so.
Brenner's kept a thin scowl throughout the entire conversation up to this point.
You do so.
There's always a one more thing I find with bureaucrats. So, what's your one more thing?
It's actually two more things.
Ah, we're lucky today.
I'm an efficient bureaucrat. Ada, what you'll need to do is, well, let me... Walt Forbes pauses to consider his framing. The first thing, the Zentarim are going to attack us on September 3rd at dawn. As a reminder, for those of you who are less timely, it is currently September 1st in mid-afternoon. This means that in roughly a day and a half, the Zentarim are going to attack us here at the East Gate. We know this because they have directly threatened us, sent us communiques, and even their agents have called this out in their dying breath that there will be a significant attack here on September 3rd.
What about your scouts? What have they seen?
our scouts have seen Zentarum forces massing in the wilderness. We assume that this attack is likely a conventional one. We've seen war camps in the woods and scouts of their own.
Nothing the Zentarum do is conventional.
A fair assumption, but anybody can shoot a crossbow.
Why would the Zentarum announce their intent?
Yeah, that doesn't.
Typically, this is a distraction in military terms.
Yes.
We think that that may be true, and we will be spending the next 36 hours aggressively examining all of these threads to see if we are being hoodwinked somehow. But I doubt it.
What could possibly be their other objective then? Is there something here they would want?
Well,
Something they
keys,
wouldn't
of
need an army
course,
for?
Portal.
right?
Nothing gold. You are correct.
We've sent so many parties into their keep without an invitation. I'm sure by now they are tired of hosting them.
When you say we, Walt Forbes lights up with elation.
So that's good news number one. How about good news number two?
Good news number 2, and you will need to do this immediately. There is no time. Today, ride north 50 miles to the Garden Reach mining complex, just outside of the city. What is in Garden Reach are 4 miners. We need them.
Oh, what?
Because the world runs on iron, Gastmere. These 4 are artisans, skilled miners, not unskilled laborers. We need them. This mining complex is outside of our zone of control. This is in the wilderness, north of the city, in the base of the Stormhorn Mountains. This is outside where we can reasonably project power, and we do not have the spare personnel to send anyone other than you. We need you to go north to Garden Reach, find the 4 miners, and bring them back. And
Understood.
you have to get here before September 3rd at dawn, because we will need your help repelling that attack.
I assume you are providing us with horses then.
We are. And whatever provisions you would need.
$50 miles. Is there a path there?
There is a well-traveled road. You can do it in a day. We would tell you that there are several inns on the way should you choose to sleep on the way there. You don't have very much time, so I would suggest planning this as best you can. Ada, you have a sense that it's probably currently about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Use this when planning your next couple days.
Who in your organization handles logistics?
That would be me.
Oh no.
God damn it.
I told you that I had other talents.
I mean, can't we just get a wagon with a couple horses and just overnight it?
Wagons are too slow.
Since when?
What interference do you expect that you're sending your last-ditch team into the wilderness?
I don't think, to be honest, that you'll encounter anything. Bandits, perhaps. My feeling is that if anything, these miners were probably waylaid on the road. Being that there's only one road, we think that you'll stumble upon them. To tell you the truth, if we thought, as you imply, that this was a terribly dangerous mission, we wouldn't send you. This is more...
The Zone of Truth is still up, right?
The Zone of Truth is still up, and Praetor Forbes is perfectly happy to stand right in the middle of it, radiant and truthful. The fact is that we think this is little more than a gopher mission. It should be as simple as getting them, putting them on your horses, and bringing them back. I don't know if I'd want to ride 50 miles with a miner on my horse, but I think you'll do okay.
Perhaps the wagon is the more prudent play then.
Something,
Do you have a wagon that we could use?
of course. Multiple things happening in the background. 1, your quest log has been updated. 2, Taldr Talton and associates, the Paladins of the Radiant Heart, are able to provide you any non-magical item or mundane item of your choosing. This will not be proctored. If you'd like, for example, a flint and tinder, a horse, which is considered a mundane item for the purposes of planning logistics, whatever you would like can be arranged for you. Everybody roll insight. Raise your hand if you get a higher than a 17.
Higher than?
Higher than. So this is in my parlance, this would be a greater sign, 17. No one? Okay. Walt Forbes stands in the middle and does this, inviting more questions. As soon as you're ready to leave, you should. You could, if you choose to. You could speak with Maris, who's the priestess of Sirik that I mentioned earlier, who handles espionage. You could see Maris before you leave. This would waste precious hours. You could attempt to get additional provisions before you leave. Again, this may waste precious hours. Should you choose as well, we have little interaction with the miners themselves. What we know is from the foreman of Col Cormier. His name is Devon, and you could see him in his office before you leave the city, if you think it would help to know more about the miners. But again, this may waste precious time.
Across the table, does anyone have any questions they're thinking of?
Is this going to be proctored right now? What we decide?
No, I was actually going to suggest across the table. It's like about the time we could take a $5. Is now like a good time?
That's what I was actually thinking of the most. Is that we would settle all that, and then before we head out, we would take a $5. Because I need a $5 right now.
Let's do that. Let's take a $5 right now.
trying to figure out if like you can actually see dice on this camera.
Yeah, you can make them out.
It might be better just to. Yeah, I don't know if this autofocus works super well. It's pretty.
You getting them heavy MLM vibes?
Heavy what vibes?
MLM, like a pyramid scheme.
Oh, okay, that's right.
That we're in currently.
Yeah. What do you mean? He's so accommodating. He's so enthusiastic. Why don't you love him?
It's very punchable.
He's a bureaucrat.
I mean, so am I.
Take 10 levels in lawyer.
Yeah. I'll just go find them on Instagram.
I like how we all rolled 17 for this check.
I'm at a hot +1 on it too. I was really happy.
Ridley, what did you go for as Halloween?
Oh, I'm Harrow Hawk from the Locked Tomb trilogy. Have you read it?
I haven't. I'm looking it up.
It's really good. If you like, it's a little bit like sci-fi lesbians with necromantic powers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. The third book just came out.
Yeah, I'm midway through that. It's
Is it good?
pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
your makeup
Um,
looks fantastic then. I'm looking at the pictures.
Yeah, thank you. I think the numbers like flipped. I couldn't figure out how to not. My webcam for some reason is flipping, so it's looking like it's saying 11, but it's meant to say 9 on it. But you know,
Do
I'm-
you have the black and white filter just for aesthetic?
I do.
Or do you just
Yes.
live like this? This is just what Finland looks like.
That could be a thing as well. Yeah, the room is actually very drab, like all the walls are white. I think it's very boring, but I do like the black and white filter just for like aesthetics.
So
Are your dogs asleep? Sorry.
I missed the leader for this conversation. Are you Neil Gaiman Death? Is that correct? No.
No. I had Restor's Death before as well, but this is Harrowhawk from the Locked Tomb trilogy, which is like a necromantic space lesbian opera kind of thing.
Very cool.
While we're waiting on Ian and what's happening with I have like a no lat right now,
I do
like
too.
a loading lat.
Huh?
You have no camera. Reload your camera.
It shows it's on, but let's give it a shot.
Something I forgot to mention. I forget, there's even. Do you know like the title screen in Roll20? That was a calibration thing where if you were zoomed and you could see the corners of it, the intro movie worked better. But didn't the intro movie? I hope it worked. I haven't looked at the VOD yet, but did it like execute okay?
Yeah? I thought
Cool.
it was good.
How about now? See me now?
Nope.
We sure can.
Yeah. No. Well, you're
Hold on, I
good.
can see it.
I
I
can
can see
see you. Yeah. That's
Okay.
fine.
it. Video disabled by me. I didn't do that shit. Sorry, back.
Welcome back. Okay. So we're right back where we were. We're inside the Zone of Truth, inside Arabel Cormier on September 1st, 1384. Across the table, when you conclude this conversation and decide to leave the temple, session 0 ends and session 1 begins. So it is thus that you have your quest log, you have Walt Forbes glowering at you in front of the Zone of Truth. He has his stupid grin on his face, and he looks extremely satisfied with everything he got done today. What other questions? What else would you like to arrange and discuss? What are your plans for the next day? Why don't you figure it out?
I'd like to leave this to the more military-minded folk here, but I think it's going to take almost the entire 2 days to get there and back, especially if there's any interference. I'm not a big horse rider, so does anybody else have opinions?
I would agree. Time is of the essence, and if we were to save these 4, then
Yeah, I mean,
we should leave
consider
now.
how shifty the Zent are and how, we think that this is an obvious ploy for a distraction. Is this just another distraction?
Is that question rhetorical? Nothing golden?
It is rhetorical, yes.
Of course. It's the Zent. Everything they do is plans within plans.
For all we know, the moment we step out of the gate, they're here.
That would make things easier.
It would. We'd already be on the horse to leave.
Cannot allow ourselves to be frozen by indecision. We have a goal in mind. All these other things are currently distractions. We should head out.
I agree.
we can tend to the rest of the business if we return.
When we return.
There's much confidence in that notion. You never know if you'll return.
Yeah, but there's
This
not
is
much
what
point
this
in
mission
saying it.
requires.
Ada and Gasmir, I didn't hear either one of you.
You go ahead.
David.
I was gonna say, there's not much point in saying it.
And Ridley.
Gasmir was saying that confidence is what this mission requires. Others have failed. We
That much
shouldn't
I
do
agree.
that.
Walt Forbes looks very satisfied with that and nods his head. That is exactly right. You'll have to be confident in order to succeed where many others have failed.
Alright, well, if he wants us to do this mission, let's go ahead. Well, get everything together. We gotta go now. No dilly-dallying.
Are you sure we can't spare a little dilly-dally?
You have something in mind?
I don't know how to do the math, but if somebody wants to calculate that, maybe.
Alright, well,
I
there are two
don't
other
want to.
options ahead of us, and that's very sensible. I don't know what math would be good for anyway. We could talk to Maris to see if she knows anything about the upcoming Zent attack and could help us figure out, how to best spend our time there. And then I guess the other thing is that I'm not sure the miners have any reason to trust us either. And so talking to Devin, their manager, may give us insight as to win them over. Obviously, if they don't want to come with us, that's going to be a struggle and a fight and will cost us even more time.
If they don't want you to come, we leave them. Period.
Agreed.
There
Yeah, we're
may
on a
be
schedule
some
anyway.
merit to having a quick word with. Oh, see, I forgot the name immediately. Sorry, what was it? The
Devin?
manager? Devin, yes,
Not,
thank
not
you.
the High Priestess of Cyric? You don't want to talk to her? She might be like the coolest person we've ever met.
Oh, see, I do want to talk to her, but my character doesn't want to talk to her currently, unfortunately. Where was I? Yes, Gathmir says that there may be some merit to asking a few quick questions from Devon before we depart. Such
Fine.
as where to find these miners.
You have a sense that existential questions like what's in the mine, who's there, how many levels, how deep may be best answered before you go there.
Are there goblins in the mine?
You know that goblins do in fact infest abandoned mines, and there is a reasonable possibility that they could have been beset by any number of beasts like that.
Goblins are what, level 1? Frightening.
Not all of them.
Do you feel threatened by goblins?
Wait, who was that for?
Just messing with Gastmir.
Okay.
Oh. No, I'm just OCD. I'm OCD excited about goblins for some reason. I'm not sure why, but anyways.
Whatever we do, we should do with confidence and do it immediately. Want to talk to this miner chief? Let's do it.
Let's depart then.
When you depart, the session ends, and we key you up for next week. If everyone go ahead.
Can we do things like get a cart and horses and supplies off camera?
Exactly. Yes, all of that happens. Yes, there is a. Again, this is session 0, so it's okay for things to be across the table quite a bit here. That's kind of the point of the session. A number of things have been streamlined for this campaign. One of them is, for example, you may notice that things like food and drink matter little to not at all when you're inside the city, and only matter when you're in the wilderness. There are other elements like that as well. Something else, like a stylistic thing that you're noticing here in terms of things that happen off camera, David. In previous campaigns, much of the delivery of this session could have been in the form of books or something like that, right? Or scrolls, or, this all could have been in your missive. Many things that were on camera previously, or might be more traditionally represented on camera in D&D, we're doing off camera. You're heroes. You're level 10, okay? You don't have time to go to the market and get a horse. If you're going to the market, it's for a +7 sword, right? Okay.
Is everyone going to insist on sticking together, or will there be the potential to split up to accomplish several things before we depart?
I mean, we don't have time to dilly-dally, so we want to prepare some shopping lists.
I don't know about you, but I'm broke. Also, I kind of like the idea of splitting up.
I mean, our friend here said that they would fund everything, so I don't think that is a problem.
We make a list, have one of those, purchase it for us. We have enough clerical people.
I will confess that shopping was not the math that I had in mind, but I really think talking to the High Priestess of Sirik will give us some insight into
Okay.
this upcoming
You can
Centaur
handle
attack.
that, and we will get the supplies.
I'll come to talk to the priest of Sirik with you.
Well, you do look like you struggle to move, so that's probably a good idea.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, your name Euros, of the Flaming Fist?
Allegedly.
Yeah, go get the horses in the cart. That seems like your speed.
That's what I
We
was
all
thinking.
have our talents, and some of us don't.
She's right. It's gonna move on, team.
Brenner leans into Taldra. I like this one.
You, military man, huh?
Captain. You?
Fighting a squad often.
Decades.
Okay. We might be close when the fighting starts. And, Taldred, I would like to imply here that these two talk a bit about silent communication while fighting, little hand signal stuff like that. It's going to be important later, most likely.
Brenner would agree to this. He would have some sort of silent cant for that.
Yeah. Okay.
You are so feel free to split up as you see fit. This is a campaign wide statement. Feel free to split up however you'd like. Most things are modular, so you can split up and talk to X, Y, or Z. Why don't we do this? Unless anyone has any other in character comments, why don't we close the session here and use either this thread or the Prime Material channel to kind of let me know what your intentions are for next week, who you're going to talk to, how you're going to split up, so that I can massage things a little bit over here.
Is it going to be 4 people getting the horses and talking to the miner, and 2 people going to the Temple of Sirik? Is that correct?
Brenner is accompanying you to the Temple of Sirik if you were going.
Excellent. So
Feels-
3 and 3, or does anybody else have a different idea?
I think Taldred's going horses. That's yeah.
Taldred Horseman. What about Gasmir?
You want to come hang out with some horses?
Not particularly, actually, now that I think about it. I think Gaspiel will go temple as well. Fetching horses seems like something that peasants should be doing.
Well, they're gonna go talk to the miners as well, the manager. But that could also be a thing
That could also
peasants
be
do.
something that peasants do, yeah. With my animal handling -1. Yeah, horses sounds like a great idea.
Okay,
I'll
that
find
sounds
us
reasonable.
the finest horses.
Can we get the name of the horses?
If you don't come, you don't.
We don't name them. They don't last long. That's why I was late.
Sausage. That's one of the names.
Does anyone remember the names of the horses from the last campaign?
I worked very hard on those.
Oh God, Ironheart and Butter Sprinkles.
I don't know, but I know it wasn't that.
I think Ironheart sounds close. The other one not so much. I knew
It's-
Grint wanted to name one of them Butter Sprinkles.
Well, it was not butter sprinkles.
Wow.
Just-
You could send that to a committee.
Just don't tell Grant.
Did all the horses die?
No, they were
No,
never.
I think we lost them.
Yeah, they were stolen.
Okay. So they live on somewhere. Somewhere out there.
Maybe
Fine.
maybe you're about to get the same horses.
Oh my God.
Oh no, the horses survived. Oh gosh.
Raggedy
Just
horses.
like Taldred.
Hmm.
Okay, well that's all I got. Next week, same time for actual session 1 on a game board, and basically the start of the campaign. Once we set off to do things, basically the campaign doesn't stop. Sounds good. Sounds fun. Thank you for doing this session 0. I know it was a lot of me talking, but I think it's good for... Do you see why I think if we tried to cram all of this exposition into session 1 and said, then let's go do something, it would be a lot. So I think that this is the best delivery system.
Although I want to.
Good. I would
do it.
carry that one throughout the week.
This is going to be a campaign about longing, I can just tell.
Isn't life about longing, David?
Oh, a good one.
I like your bureaucrat voice.
Thank you.
I liked that character. He was funny.
Thank you.
I like how 50% of the party clearly wanted to punch him in the face.
It
Yes.
reminds me too much of what's his ass from the last one.
Eric?
Ray,
No,
Ray,
no.
Ray
Yeah.
Poitier,
Maybe?
the mayor.
No. The one who sent us on the mission. That we ended up at Alan shot with a crossbow. Or
The
something.
Baron. Yes.
the Baron. He reminded me too much.
Oh,
of the
really?
Baron. Yeah. He
Huh.
was all excitable. Hey, come do my mission for me. Yeah.
This is like a fantasy bureaucrat because I'm a real life bureaucrat. Let me tell you how eager I am to get off of work every day.
Aren't you eager to smile at people to get them to do what you want so that you can go do something else?
Bureaucrats have all the power, that's the problem. There's no smiling required. The persuasion checks come toward me, they don't come out of me.
That's a funny way of observing that. Well, I will conclude here. I will see everybody next week. I am very excited. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for the session.
Yes, thank you.
It was fun. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Good night, friends.
Good night.
Farewell.